Hi, everyone. Welcome to Gruff Talk, where each week we explore everything to help us feel better, look better, live better, and age better. Today, we're talking with Kerry Hannon, author of many, many books about work and money, specifically for people over 50. I'm your host, Barbara Hannah Grufferman. A few years ago, well before COVID, I asked women on social media to reveal that one thing that keeps them awake at night. That single nagging worry that haunts their sleep and has the potential to overshadow their generally positive outlook on life. The responses spurred me to write an article for HuffPost, which was then picked up by other media, including NPR stations around the country. Clearly, it hit a nerve with a lot of people. Conventional wisdom might say that women over 50 are most concerned about how they look, how many wrinkles they have, and how young they appear. In fact, there's big business in convincing us that these should be our focal points. As I've written many, many times, women often feel invisible once they hit 50. But that isn't a gut-wrenching fear. It's just an observation. When I asked them to share their worst fear, none of these issues came up. Oh yeah, if you mentioned health as a priority, sure, or maintaining the ability and strength to keep doing everything they're doing and love to do. But based on the many responses I received, it's clear that these women who are out there working, taking care of their families, and now very often aging parents, and contributing to their communities in meaningful ways have something much bigger than crow's feet on their minds. The one common thread that linked their thoughtful comments was this: the fear of not having enough money as they got older. Listen, with so many unknowns right now in the world, which are affecting the financial market, sure, with the workplace landscape drastically changed as a result of the pandemic, and with ageism still very much entrenched in the work culture and society overall, this fear is still very, very real. My guest today is one of the country's leading thought leaders focusing on work and money with a specific focus on people 50 plus. Kerry Hannon is an expert columnist for many leading journals, senior editor for Yahoo Finance, and is a sought-after speaker and an on-air media expert. She's the author of many, many books. Her newest one is called, and I love this name, In Control at 50 Plus, How to Succeed in the New World of Work. Welcome to Gruff Talk, Kerry.
Oh, thank you for the invitation. I'm so excited to be here. I'm such a fan of your work. You've just had such a, let's use the word positive, impact on so many women, and I'm just thrilled to be part of the team here today.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm trying my best out there. Okay, Kerry, before we dive into what I really want to talk about, I have three things I like to ask every guest. First of all, where are you tuning in from?
Oh, I'm in Washington, D.C.
Mm-hmm. My youngest daughter just moved there in January. Loves D.C., as do I.
It's a great town.
It's a great town. Second, what are the essential things about Kerry Hannon, the person, you'd like the Gruff Talk audience to know about you?
Well, I guess the most important thing, and it really does come through in my work, is that I'm a pretty optimistic person. I'm very positive. My outlook is I tend to see the bright side of things. And not that I'm naive, but I feel like that's a better way for me to go through the world, is looking at how can we, not how can't we, or how can I, not how can't I. I'm also super curious. And I think that's the key for most people in terms of movie, like really, and we'll talk about this more, being in control of your life. When you're curious, I mean, the world is just so much more interesting. And I guess the third thing would be I'm really fascinated by other people's stories. And I love hearing people's journeys. And that's part of my curiosity is, wow, like how did they do that? And how did they go from A to B to C? That really is fun. And I've done that for years. Since I was about 17 or 18, I've written people's stories. And so I love that. And the final thing is I love animals, and I really, really love dogs and horses.
I know. And that's one of the things I love most about you. I love all of those things you just mentioned, but I love all your posts about your dog and your horse and your horses. And it's really, really wonderful to see. That's a wonderful aspect of your life.
It keeps me grounded.
sure.
I mean, if I didn't get horse hugs or get down on the floor and play with my puppy, I don't know where I'd be. That is what it's all about.
I couldn't agree more. And should I reveal that right now as we speak, I'm looking at my dog, my wonderful dog,
Yay.
Pete the Brittany.
Oh, so cool.
He's in the room with us. He's very quiet. He wouldn't even know. But, what's funny what you said too is I raised both of my daughters, they're both in their 20s now, with the following mantra: interesting people are interested people.
Ooh, I like that.
Right? It's just so. And I've told them that over and over and over again. So let's hope it sticks with them. Clearly, it did with you.
Yeah.
Okay, last question for you before we get into the real topic of the day. What did you eat for breakfast today, Kerry?
Well, okay, for starters, no self-respecting writer would get started without a good, strong cup of coffee, right? Black coffee.
Oh, bingo on that.
Thank you very much. So that's like my immediate go-to. And then I love my Greek yogurt. And, I put some maple syrup to counteract any of the good things in there. I have to add the sugar.
I've already had my Greek yogurt too. It's great. Okay, good. I just love to know what people eat. I just do. And I usually am recording way after breakfast. So I always like to, okay, maybe before lunch, what the heck did you eat today? Okay, let's get started. Kerry, I started this episode telling the story about how the fear of not having enough money as you get older is a huge concern for a lot of people, men and women. Of course, one side of the equation is managing your finances and saving more money so you have more money, right? And you address these beautifully in all of your books and articles and when you speak. But the other side of the equation is to make sure you continue to do everything you can to make money. And that's what I want to focus on today. So let's start with your new book, In Control at 50 Plus, How to Succeed in the New World of Work. I've read it, just fabulous, and got so much out of it, as I do with all your books. It has a really effective balance of motivation and practical advice and tips that people can really use. Please tell us why you wrote this book and what you really want the Gruff Talk audience to learn from it.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm super excited about this book, Barbara, because I have written a lot on this topic of jobs and work and longevity and women and money, all that great stuff. Why I wrote this book is, oh my gosh, there we are in the pandemic, right? I mean, people are isolated, working from home, whatever it might be, getting laid off, so on. And I was talking to various people along the way, and I realized that we need a playbook of how do we come out of this? I mean, what's the work world going to look like when we get back out of this period in time, which is something that none of us had really experienced in this same way. It was jolting. It was impactful in a way that things are never going back to the way they were. So I care about the workers over 50. That's me. These are my peeps. And
Yes.
I'm looking at, what were the big trends? What are we seeing coming out of it? And how can we take advantage of these trends? How can we embrace them? So that's what I set out to do, is to look at what are the major trends that are emerging as we come out of the pandemic now in 2022 and moving forward with an eye to the future.
I'm curious, were you thinking about this book? Because I know the process of publishing, how long it takes to write it, research it, get the manuscript in, get it published. It's a long process. Did you have a different book in mind before the pandemic, and then boom, the pandemic hit, and then you said, wait a minute, I got to shift this around a little bit?
Not really. Here's the thing is this book actually was, my agent sold this book in the summer of, or the fall of 2020 or late fall 2020. So we were already in the pandemic. It was already.
Yes. Oh,
so
definitely.
Things were already there. And I had already begun writing a lot of pieces for AARP and for Next Avenue and many in the New York Times, taking a look at entrepreneurship and what was happening, and so I was reporting it as I was going. So as I got this contract signed to do the book, I continued my reporting for MarketWatch and everyone, exploring as I went. So I was digging up what's happening. So it was really of the moment. The book that I really had to pivot on was the book I did before that was published in the summer of 2020, a great Pajama Jobs.
Yes. I love that book.
That book, I actually had planned to write a book, and I had written the book about remote work, not even realizing what was going to happen. And then it was due, the manuscript was due in March or April of 2020. And I said to my editor at Wiley, John Wiley & Sons, we can't do this. We've got to pump the brakes here. I need a few more weeks to get a grip on what's happening, because it changes the focus makes this book more relevant than ever, but I need to make sure it's up to date with what's happening so we don't look like we missed the biggest thing that happened in the world.
The biggest thing that's happened in our lifetime.
So that was the book that really was like, oh my gosh. But this particular book, honestly, I was writing the book as I was it was fresh off the press.
As you were living
all
it.
The time as I was living it.
So and researching and reporting on it, as you said.
And my editing team at this book came from McGraw-Hill, is my publisher here, and they were very quick and nimble and allowed me to push back deadlines as late as I possibly could. So I feel really good about it being very timely.
Oh, gosh, yes, it really is. And, we will include links for all of these things, all of your books with the show, so people can check everything out. And I really do encourage everyone to get that book. I thought it was incredible. Okay, Kerry, when my first book came out in 2010, seems like such a long time ago. Well, because it was The Best of Everything After 50. I was a lone voice in the wilderness. At least that's how I felt, talking and writing about positive aging. Not about work and the like, but more about, health and fitness, how we look, how we view ourselves, which is why it really did get a lot of media attention when it came out. And there has been, which is encouraging, a lot of movement towards age acceptance since then. But we're nowhere near where we should be. It wasn't like some kind of a sea change or anything. And ageism is clearly the biggest reason. Now, you talk about ageism a lot in general, but it's also in this new book. Give us an assessment of how you think ageism has shifted, if you think it has at all, during the last 10 years, and what you're predicting for the future, because clearly you are a futurist. I mean, for sure. So tell us, what's your thinking about ageism?
Well, Barbara, I think it is voices like yours and hopefully mine, because, around that time I was writing about work and jobs and career transitions and all that stuff too. And we were the voices saying, hey, you got a lot of runway ahead of you, and be positive, and this is a great time in your life. So ageism was really, it's so entrenched in our society, and it's entrenched in the workplace, in the culture. These things do not change quickly. And I must say, because I say I'm a positive girl, but I am a little pessimistic in the sense of this. I don't think the needle has moved that much. I think it is still there. And I think a lot of the ageist attitudes actually come from people at the top of the organizations who are in fact themselves older. And they, they're like, you're old, but I'm not. Or, there's all the stereotypes about older workers and so forth. They cling to us. But the thing that changes it, that has me hopeful, is that women like us and others, really fabulous people in this space, are getting this conversation out there, and we're loud and we're talking about it, and we're giving positive examples to people of how this is playing out in the workplace. And the fact is, because of the way the population is changing, employers need older workers because there are not as many younger workers coming up behind us. And in a tight labor market, they really need to say, hey, I want to hang on to my experienced workers, my knowledge workers. And so I think that there is some shift going on. I can talk about it when we get into the book. I believe that some of the trends coming out of the pandemic are in our favor, and it's really going to make it better. But it's keeping this conversation front and center, and making sure programs like this reach people that say, hey, you know what? This is something that we need to pay attention to, because, and just finally, when people talk about diversity, we're going to have a chief diversity officer and all these great things, which is great, right? But ageism is not one of those things. That age needs to be one of those things, along with the other things that corporations and employers recognize that they need to pay attention to this.
I was so struck by that exact thing that I read. I believe it was in the introduction or the foreword. I can't remember where I read it in the book. And I was like, oh my goodness, I never thought about that. So all these inclusion, diversity departments and managers of or directors of the age is not part of that in the vast majority of companies. And that has to change right there. So I'm really glad you brought that up. I meant to. I'm glad you did.
But to also feed off of that is it has to change for another reason, is that we need to make this happen because it's not just for our generation, it's for people coming behind us. Because with longevity and longer working lives, it is no longer that you're done in your 60s. It is people, the thought of financing, you talked about this at the top of your show here, financial security. If you retire at 65, you could potentially have 30 years, 3 decades ahead of you that you need to finance and need to cover medical costs, which are the great crystal ball. Who knows what that's going to cost? But believe me, you need to keep earning. And all of us need to pay attention to this as we're nimble about our careers, as we put them all together. And the younger generations behind us, they're going to benefit from the, kind of the leaders
the work
that
we're doing now. Exactly.
Yes.
It's so great that you are such a strong voice for this and really encouraging people, as you do with all of your books and your articles and your talks, about staying in the workforce for a lot of, and you do talk about it in this book too, for a lot of reasons, not just financially, but also, the medical benefits and the mental, psychological benefits. So these are all so, so important.
And it's really different, Barbara, too. If you think about it, it's, there's different audiences for this. I mean, people between 50 and 60 are looking for different kinds of works, and they have different kinds of work, and they have different options in front of them. They have a little room to do more. 60 and 70 can be a different kind of a job seeker, or, there's different things you're looking for, and above that as well. So each decade sort of presents different opportunities for looking for work and what you need to satisfy you financially and mentally and socially, all of those good things. But I think it's important to note that someone between 50 and 60 is looking for something perhaps different than 60 to 70. That's all I would want to make sure that we understand, that we all have different needs, but there's a common thread.
Yes. Couldn't agree more with all of that. And, talking about work and you have a chapter devoted to where the jobs are and where they will be. Again, that's the futurist in you. Where will they be, Kerry? Please talk us through some of those jobs you think that are realistically available to people over 50, maybe even breaking them down between, these different age groups, 50 to 60, 60 and over, whatever you want. But talk us through some of those jobs, please.
Well, I think it's a huge question. And that was a really hard chapter to write because, it's such an individual journey for how you want to pivot your skills or add to your skills to move into new fields, and your willingness to do that. I think a lot of workers at a certain stage in their life start saying, I want to stick in my lane. They want to look for jobs to replicate what they had in the past. So if they were laid off during the pandemic or took an early retirement package, they start going back to what they know already and try to replicate that job. And that's simply not going to happen. So the key is you need to be open to, how can I pivot what skills I have into a new arena, and how can I add the skills I need to? And we can talk about some of the ways to do this, but to explore some of these the fields that are really the bright lights moving forward. And I love, if anyone is just looking for a great quick resource, the Bureau of Labor Statistics has the Occupational Handbook. And it's such fun. It really is. They pull apart all kinds of different jobs and median pay and what kind of education you need for it, and on and on and on. They really drill down, and I think that it's a fun resource. It's and they give the growth of where we're going to see the growth areas. So some of the big growth areas, and none of these are going to be shockingly surprising to you, but health and wellness, okay? That's a huge category, health and wellness, and particularly mental health, because coming out of the pandemic, we see this. It's finally, people are recognizing it's not like this is new. People have had these issues, but I think there's a lot more attention to what we can do to sort of help people in this arena, dealing with as counselors and so on and so forth. So mental health has gotten big, but health, wellness and health in terms of lots of things, whether it's exercise, being a fitness instructor, yoga instructor, massage therapist, but in this basic caregiving jobs, depends on what you're looking to do. But any way you can slice and dice it, health and wellness is massive. So it's worth doing some homework to see what kind of jobs are out there, and even going through your LinkedIn contacts of people who are doing cool jobs and stuff.
Yes.
Like, what are they doing? Wow, that sounds really interesting. And starting to set up sort of interviews with people for information, just like, how did you get that job? What do you think, would my skill set fit into that? So most important when you're looking, and I'm going to hit the other two areas are technology and education. So those are the three big categories I see where the jobs are going to be moving forward. They are there now. But they're changing. Things are changing so rapidly, particularly with technology. So, in the world of technology, sure, if you want to be a cybersecurity expert, go for it. That is really hot, and it's not going away. But if you're a great if you like designing websites, we're all getting so nimble with being online that I think anything you can do, designing apps or helping people navigate all kinds of different tech stuff is fun and exciting, and sort of look around you and say, what might be interesting there in education? But even things under education could be an interpreter, translator. These are kinds of jobs that are in demand, but it's also education at all levels. One group, for example, Get Set Up, which you may know Neil D'Souza, but he started Get Set Up a couple of years ago. And those are for people over 50, teaching people over 50 to do various things. But it's a big core of that is basic skill sets from, getting up to speed with various tech platforms and things. So I think that there's lots of opportunity in these three big categories. And you can find specific jobs in my book, but I tried to be careful about saying, boom, this is it, because it's really up to your own imagination, your own determination, and your own, I guess it's your mission or your passion. I always tell people, when you're looking for a new job, first, see where the jobs are going to be. Okay, they're going to be in these areas, but what is it that resonates with you? Is there a company that you believe in their mission, that you'd really love to work for them, or a nonprofit? Right. Start right there and then go to their website and see what jobs they have open and how could you fit in there somehow and get that conversation going. So I think this is the time in your life to take control of where you want to work, not necessarily who wants to hire you, and then go from there. That's your point of strength.
And LinkedIn really is a great resource for that, for looking at companies to see what job opportunities there might be, don't you think?
Oh, it's fantastic. And who you know that works there, and all that, your alumni contacts. These are all great ways to start these casual conversations, because employers hire people the way they always have. It's who you know, no matter how many job boards there are. They want to hire someone who can recommend you, somebody who knows you, if directly or indirectly. But getting your foot in the door, you still have to attain the job all by yourself, by your own, moxie and so forth. But you need to have somebody represent for you. And I think the best way LinkedIn can help you find those connections and help you, even if it's an informational interview, that person, you always ask, who else can I talk to? You keep that ball rolling and you'll have a team of people. And also, gosh, Barbara, when you do that, when you do those informational interviews, be curious about that person. You're not selling yourself to that person. You're trying to find out about that job and how they got it and what they love about that job. So and when you get people talking about their job and what they love about it and why they're proud of it or the mission of their company, oh my gosh, they remember you like you are the best thing on earth, because it's like
Kerry, I have
my
to tell you,
staring at me,
Right. Oh, we heard him before too. I'm so glad he was able to join in.
Well, I got to say, that was my neighbor's dog. My dog is a Labrador Retriever, and she's perfectly well behaved. But the German Shepherd next door is not so well behaved.
Oh, that's so funny.
I know. I'm like, Can I mute this?
Hey, Kerry, I have to tell you something. Everything that you have just been saying, everything, really, and I know we're talking about people over 50 or over 45 and the like, this really applies to every age group.
Yeah, it does.
This is the kind of advice that I was giving just instinctively to my youngest daughter when she got her master's, at the end of this past year. and was then looking for a job. Really, it's like get onto LinkedIn, look for those connections, see your alum connections, and on and on. I mean, really, this is so, and be that interested person, because then you'll be interesting to the person you're talking with.
Oh my gosh, right back at it. And I got to tell you, and really, I hate, I'm such a cheerleader for LinkedIn, but I actually found
me too.
The position I have at Yahoo Finance came to me through a recruiter found me on LinkedIn. I mean, it was completely out of the blue. I wasn't looking for this. I had plenty of things on my plate. And I was like, oh my, well, that sounds interesting. And then, I talked to some people I knew who were over at Yahoo Finance, and I was like, yeah, this could be really cool because it's such a huge platform and
oh yeah,
and all of that. And plus, it was just a whole new audience to spread my word.
Yes, a whole new audience for you.
They're beautiful. It's like I'm walking the walk for older workers, because here's the thing: my boss is younger than me, right? I've had to learn new technology, and it's like all those things I tell everybody. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm doing that.
You are doing it. Yes, you're walking the walk, talking the talk. I love that. That is so great that's how that happened.
Yeah,
thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, and thank you, really. LinkedIn.
And one other thing I want to add in here is like, these are such great recommendations for everybody. And again, for every age group, but I know we're focusing on 50 plus for the most part. But one thing too that is so critically important in my mind, because I'm speaking personally, is you have to be fearless. Because let's take me as an example. I came from the corporate world. I wasn't a writer and a speaker and focusing on healthy aging. It only started when I turned 50 and I was confused and upset and didn't know what to do, blah, blah, blah. And I had this idea from my book is there really wasn't anything out there for what I needed at that time. Well, if I had been fearful about taking that idea and moving forward with it, like, oh, well, who wants to listen to me? Then we would not be sitting here having this conversation right now. But I was fearless. I decided, what's the worst that could happen?
Mm-hmm,
the worst that could happen is everyone says no. And I go back to doing what I was doing or something else.
Yeah.
And that is really important. So everybody listening, use all of these tools and tips that Kerry is sharing with us today for sure. And please read this book to get even more. But, you gotta be fearless. You gotta be bold. This is the time.
And opportunities come when you least expect it. So you have to be open to new ideas, new opportunities, and to saying yes and being willing to fail, because who cares? I mean,
I agree with that too.
When I was taking on this new adventure, I was talking to my sister and she goes, well, so what happens if it doesn't work out? It's not like it ruined your career.
Bingo on that.
Like, oh yeah, you're right. Who cares? I'm not 30
Who
and I'm
cares?
But it is working out, so it's great. But the other thing
is it is working out very well.
But the thing with you is you exemplify this. You've got, and that is my favorite word today, is moxie. I mean, you've just got that confidence. You've got that, you understand yourself. You own your talent, and nobody can take that away from you.
Right. And I feel like if you don't want to hear what I have to say, I'm okay with that too.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. Yep. Okay. Hey, I'm a huge believer in staying fit and healthy as you get older. Like I write about a lot. I think all roads lead to fitness. That's kind of my motto. But, you want to be mobile and independent for as long as possible and hopefully keep your medical costs down too as you get older. But we know there are other kinds of fitness, Kerry, that you talk about in your book. And after this very short break, we are going to talk about that. Okay, we're back. And my guest today is Kerry Hannon, one of the country's leading experts in money and jobs for people over 50. We're talking about her newest book, In Control at 50 Plus, How to Succeed in the New World of Work. Okay, Kerry. So I love the chapter on fitness because I love fitness. A big believer in it. Okay. Financial, physical, and spiritual is what you outlined. You also referenced something called the HOVER method, HOVER. Tell us what that is and why it's so important.
Why, thank you. That is one of my favorite things.
Yes, you said so in the book. And I said, well, I had better ask her about it.
So, it's an acronym. We all love acronyms. And so
Yes.
hover, just picture something that kind of is, above you that sort of guides you, right? So hover stands for hope, optimism. The V is value. The E is enthusiasm, which you and I both have. And the R is resilience, which
we have that too in spades.
So quickly, the thing is, all right, hope is really believing that you can attain your goals, that you are going to find a way. And frankly, you're your own best hope, right? So just think about that. Add it, whatever, if you have a vision board, whatever. Hope is really believing that you can do this. Now, optimism is different than hope. Optimism is like, that's your juice. That's what propels you. It's loving what you do every day. It's getting up in the morning and saying, hey, this is really cool. I've got some really fun stuff to do today. And I'm going to keep acting. I'm going to keep pushing forward. So it's like pushing forward, doing one thing. It's a can-do approach, right? It's bouncing back. It's moving forward. And it's really feeling good about what's down the road. It's not being naive. I'm not saying, oh my gosh, everything's, wonderful.
Hunky-dory.
Yeah.
Right?
But it's you and I know this, you can control your mindset in this sense. You don't have to focus on that negative part of it. Let's focus on the energy side. So I think one way to do that is to focus on the good things going on in your life and try to make a point. People talk and write about this all the time, but being grateful and keeping just a little gratitude list. If you're feeling kind of blue, do it, because you'll go, oh my gosh.
Big believer on that, Kerry. I'm a huge believer in and all of this. But yes, it's important.
Optimism comes from gratitude. Even like today, I'm walking my dog and I saw all the daffodils coming out and the hydrangea and the cherry blossoms in DC. And I was
yes, my daughter sent me photos.
It's
so
like
beautiful.
you're in cotton candy or something. And wow, I'm grateful for that. So anyway, that's one thing. And value is knowing that you've got something to offer and that, and you personally value your own work. You look at your work and say, yeah, that's pretty good. You really value who you are. And there's a way, and that gives you self-confidence. Sometimes I write stuff and I'll go back and read it. I'm like, who the heck wrote that? But anyhow, then I'll be like, oh, that was me. So
is that so wonderful? Love that.
So anyway, having that self-confidence, and one way to keep adding value is to keep learning, get fresh ideas, talk to people, expose yourself, stay out there, stay relevant. Enthusiasm that's like this energy. And it's an eagerness to try new things. And so that's something you have to work on. Some people do at any rate. But I think when you take on a new assignment or say yes to an opportunity, it's really scary because you're like, oh, I haven't been down that road before. But that adrenaline kicks in and that really fires up your enthusiasm. So focus on things that bring happiness to you, that ignites that enthusiasm. And that's really something that's fantastic. And I also think when we talk about physical fitness, when you're physically fit, you have that can-do enthusiasm. It's engendered in you, that positivity from being physically fit. But the last thing is resilience. And that's your ability to bounce back. And
yes,
I think at this stage in life, most of us are hardwired to do that. I honestly do. We've been through a lot of changes. We've pivoted a lot. We've had good things happen, bad things happen. And we've realized that we're not stuck in the past. And so again, I'm throw out my thing about keep learning, because resilience comes from learning new things. Because when you're learning new things, you're a beginner again, right? You don't know that, right? You don't know what you're about to learn. So you have to be the greenhorn, or you have to start from scratch. And then you learn. And then now you're not that. So it's that sort of back and forth of adding skills and so being a beginner and then not. So that's how resilience grows.
Kerry, like you, I lost my mother in 2021. I'm still grieving. I know you are too.
Yeah.
And she taught me a lot of things in life, especially, always be independent, don't depend on anyone, especially about your money. And always, whenever I was going to date, don't forget the mad money because you need to,
She really might need money to get home.
Yeah. So, guys, I don't know if you all know Mad Money. That's a kind of a throwback term, but anyway, and she was really very special, and we're still mourning her loss very, very much. But I hear everything you're talking about, and I'm thinking to myself as you're talking, and I see a lot of myself in you, and you're like me, like 20,000 times more. Your enthusiasm and every positive thing, and I'm thinking, did you pop out that way? Again, I know you lost your beloved mother as well. You dedicate this book to her. You reference her in the book. Very touching. What role did your mom have in how you are today?
Oh, thank you for asking me about mom. I did a lot of caregiving during the pandemic with mom
Yeah,
before she passed.
me too.
And
Yep,
I must say, I was hanging by a thread, some of that, but it was magic.
I know.
I just am so, again, grateful to have that time with her. But my mom,
Carrie, you wouldn't have done it any other way, right?
you're right.
No,
Wouldn't
me
have.
too.
But
We're single-minded on that one.
and I
But
actually
continue.
followed some of your caregiving through social media, so I know a little bit about what you went through as well. And it's something we do, and we care for our elders, and it's with utmost respect and love. And my mom was pretty extraordinary. But what was cool is like when I was a little kid, we had 4 kids in my family, and I was the middle child, and I was the fighter, right? I was, I was the scrappy. So mom, I was a bit of a handful, for mom. And when I got older, when I graduated from college, suddenly mom and I became best friends. I can't tell you when it happened, but all of a sudden I became interested in the things that she was interested in, and I valued what she did. And we grew to have these fantastic conversations. And mom was you'll say this about your mom too. Mom was my big believer. She
Yes.
totally was there for me. And I mean, if she had been a little bit younger, she would have been my publicist. I'm telling you, she can make things happen, but she really, and I really miss now that I can't just sit down and tell her something. And she always sided with me. And I believe that I need somebody who says, yeah, you're absolutely right, Kerry.
I know. Isn't that a wonderful thing to have? And I couldn't agree more with you. I mean, it was unconditional support.
But my mom had a lot of grace, and she was a happy person. She was a positive person. And anyone who you meet who knew my mother that is exactly her smile. Oh, Muggs's smile. Oh, Muggs's smile, And I got to give the eulogy at the funeral, and I had everybody laughing, and it was good. She would say, anytime you say, how are you, Mom? She goes, fat and sassy. And she wasn't fat, let me tell you, but she was sassy. And so, so the thing is, she brought delight to a lot of people, and she was super kind. And those are the things I try to emulate.
Oh, well done, Kerry. Well done. And well done, Mom. Your mom raised an incredible woman. So bravo to her.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure. There is so much more I want to discuss with you, but it was a pleasure having you on Gruff Talk, Kerry. And I don't want to say goodbye. I want to say, let's continue this conversation. And I would love to hear you say right now that, yes, you agree to coming back, because I actually want to talk more about all of this. But let's talk about the next time about the other side of the equation, which you write about so much too. Like, how do you save your money? And how do you, are you making all this money because you're still working, everyone? Now, what do you do with it? Yeah. So there's a lot I want to talk about with you. So you will be back.
Oh, I would love that. I want to be on Team Gruff.
Yes, you're a gruff gal. So before I let you go, though, what are three things you really would like our audience to take away from our chat today?
Yeah. Let's see. I want people to know that, and it sounds trite, but you must believe in yourself. If you want anybody else to respect you and value you, you've got to start right there. So do that inner soul searching. Really take the time to pay attention to who you are and get yourself financially fit, physically fit, all those things you can do to eat with an eye to nutrition, everything you can do to really bring value to yourself and really, care about who you are and be proud of it. The second thing is that this is you've got a lot of runway ahead of you. This is an exciting time. Lots of things are changing. Lots happening out there. And the possibilities for being able to work remotely for sure is going to help fight back on ageism. It's huge when you're not standing next to somebody who's 20 or 30 years younger than you. It's subliminal, but it pays off. And it also, if you have health issues or mobility issues, man, does it open up the job market for you because if you can work remotely. So pay attention to those opportunities, but really think about where, and the third thing is be open to opportunities that are out of your lane. Look, don't be afraid to leave your lane and go a different direction because my goodness, like Barbara and I just said, this is where the magic happens.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Oh, great. Thank you. Oh, I'm giving you this round of applause, Kerry.
Oh, so fun.
I'm so motivated right now from this conversation. Okay. Thank you everyone for tuning in and learning more about our guest, Kerry Hannon. Check out all the links to learn more about Kerry, her work, all her books, including the newest one. If you love this episode, please share it with your friends and family so they learn too. And if you don't want to miss an episode of Gruff Talk, where we will be talking about money, sex, style, health, nutrition, grief, and so much more, and everything in between in upcoming episodes, here's what you need to do. Subscribe to Gruff Talk wherever you listen to podcasts, including YouTube. So easy. Just click on the little subscribe button. Until next time, remember this. We can't control getting older, but we can control how we do it. Bye for now. Age Better Podcast is a proud member of the Sound Advice Network. Sound Advice, women's voices amplified.